Okay, we're going.
Oh, alright. Hopefully we're going now.
There's not many reasons to roll a camera. There's not many reasons to continuously roll a camera. There's not many reasons to continuously roll a camera in 1989. The longest tape you'd seen was only 3 hours long. The longest VHS tape you'd ever seen, sure, the box says 9 hours, but that's in SLP mode, and your camcorder does not only in SP, or standard speed. Only in SP, or standard play. But what if there was a camcorder that did? It's really creaky, everything is made out of plastic, and it's really creaky and basically everything is made out of plastic. It's really creaky and everything is made out of... Right, so the second thing I'm gonna mention, I could have used it on battery if during the shoot of the previous episode, this battery deteriorated. Anyway, this camcorder has the same DC power jack because it's a crime against electronics. At least for this model, I can only go on. So here's something a little bit goofy. You might not. VHS was a standard from the 70s. Hi-fi, for some examples, like 10 to 20. So all the footage you shoot is better than. So all the footage you would shoot on this would be better than. So basically, all the footage that you would. Let's go over the hour. This is quite a strange microphone, however. Having some solder balling up around the mic. And if so, at least I had, so this is probably just an age thing, because it's so old. On the bottom, there's the internal mic's wind filter switch. There's also this wheel on it that seems to be that on the right side of this entire viewfinder contraption pod slides. This adds more adjustment to this mechanism, which as previously discussed I suspect that's exactly where RCA would have gotten the speaker used in here. I suspect that's actually, this is one of the only 3 VHS camcorders I'm aware of that ever had this is one of the only 3 models of so yeah, this camcorder has a speaker, and it has several other, which is actually just a button in disguise, and that's the power switch. Next to it, there's a little red LED that lights up when the unit is on. Next to the tape door actually opens pretty smoothly. The tape door actually, compared to the previous episode's subjects. Next is the rewind button. This is, as far as I can tell, universal on all VCRs. It might even be this is, as far as I can tell, which exhibits the same. This is an interesting button to find, but this has more functionality than those. It's a Pro Edit camcorder, so they added a pause button there. Pausing. What a revenue. Pausing. What a revenue. Pausing. What a revenue. Pausing. What a revenue. Next to that are the audio dub. You can pass through either of the inputs. The next control is on this black section of plastic now. Yes, I finally have the manual for one of these things. The paper manual is out. The tracking control is for adjusting playback. Sometimes the image from other recorders won't line up very precisely sometimes the image from other recorders won't line up very well. Next, on yet another color of plastic. This is specifically for single mono earbud. I can tell you how the answer to that very obvious question is yes, but only on, one side, of course. Really strange quirk is the battery release. Back from this on the black plastic, and the camera I'm actually shooting this on, but this sled does not have any electric, or under that is an AV output, which is strange. And the clock battery, here's the lens, under the lens. This lens is an f1.2 video zoom lens. I don't think you can, in fact, do simple macro shots with this by pressing this greenish button down and pulling down, which might kind of freak you out at first. Maybe this kind of thing was still that I had scheduled. Behind this are some small lenses and sensors used for focusing. Here's what behind that on a broken camcorder I believe that on the side of the lens assembly thingy, on the side kind of below the lens here, you could leave it in manual mode, which means you have to focus using the rubber ringed focus ring I mentioned earlier. You can leave it in manual mode, and then you can leave it in manual mode. You can leave it in manual mode and focus with this rubber ridged ring up here that I mentioned earlier, but you can actually press it down to trigger it to autofocus for as long, but you can actually press it down, to trigger it to focus, and then that's actually a pretty cool way to do it. And on the back of the hand grip, there is a record button. And on the back of the hand grip, there's a red record button. Next to that are a whole bunch of controls, buttons, and switches. Next to that are a crap ton of controls that do. I think what off does is it just sets the, in manual shutter mode, you can press the speed button next to the switch to manually change in manual shutter mode, you can press the speed button, but whatever. Next is a light purple display button, which changes info or on an external, first it shows nothing. First it shows nothing by default. The EF, oh, it's a battery level indicator. So, anyway, there's no battery in here right now, and there's no battery in here right now, and as I just tried, next to that is the speed indicator. Under those are the time index. If you press display again, press it again, and it shows, I think, how much time is left on the tape that it thinks. Press it again, and it, I think, shows how much time that it thinks. Press it again, and it shows how much time it thinks is, back to normal. Back to normal. Back to normal. Next, we have an iris control dial. And you can swing this dial in either direction to increase or decrease the amount of light that gets through to the iris. And you can, below that, we have the color temperature, but since it's not on Kelvin, so I just leave this alone and leave it on auto. This is the only type of fade. Next to all of those controls are the tapes. If I'm understanding correctly, the date and time button is for the red review button. I don't know why, but for me, this only rewinds about 5 seconds. This is for if you're using the system with another VCR exif. You can reset all of this by pressing the, under that, there's a little plastic which provides you with something like, so in this era, it was quite common to get your film photos you took processed into slides for use with the slide projector. People, I guess, wanted to use them with their VHS tapes. There were actually consumer camcorder adapters you'd put on the front. The problem was that press the date and time button before. When you found the right one, press the select. If you press date and time again, provided you aren't editing it, it'll only display the date. If you press the date and time button again, you can't just display the time though, for some reason. The last control here is the time-lapse button. What this does is basically record or with a manually triggered option. On the 30-second option, I presume, the reason why it goes back into standby in between intervals is to avoid damaging the tape by making the video heads scrub the tape. This is a really cool thing to have in this camcorder. Here's an example I made. Above all of that, there's another one of those buttons disguised as a switch labeled self-timer. Above all of that, there's a switch up here. Above all of that though, there's a button. Above all of that though, there's a button. Above all of that though, there's a button. The manual says to press the self-timer button, then stop. This slides back. 8x zoom lens with autofocus. Gotta love that one. So, those titler controls. To turn on the titler itself, press edit on the D-pad-like location button.
It's actually 50 character.
The shift key is a modifier key. The color button cycles through changing the color of the current character, or the color button cycles through changing the current character. The delete mode is basically press and hold the shift button, and press the location button to position the completed title. Press and hold the shift button and press the, that's actually pretty, on the bottom of all places, this allows you to plug a proprietary cable. This allows you to plug a proprietary cable that costs $60 in 1989. That basically allows you to. This is basically the video input cable. This is basically the AV input cable. This is basically the cable that allows you to use this camcorder's VHS mechanism as if it was just a VHS mechanism. This is the cable for this camcorder that allows you to use this camcorder as if it was just a send. This is basically the cable that allows you to use the VHS mechanism in this camcorder as if it was just a standalone VHS mechanism. There's also the microphone on-off mix switch. There's also the mic mix on-off switch, the speaker volume control wheel, and the star of the episode, a switch that allows you to choose between the star of the episode, a switch that allows you to choose between standard play SP and the star of the episode, as they will likely crumble. You can do this for 1 to 3 hours depending on what model tape you've inserted. Except that isn't just. This means that if you use this on SLP mode, you can effectively get 6 hours on a VHS T120 model. This means that if you use this on SLP mode, you can effectively. This means that if you use this on SLP mode, you can effectively get 6 hours of video on a VHS T120 tape, which are pretty common as well. SLP mode gives you 3 times. SLP mode gives you 3 times the time versus. SLP mode gives you 3 times, that could be any setting that gives you more time. And at that point, why even have a term for it? Why not just call it, more time mode? And at that point, why even have a term for it? You might as well just call anything that is, and at that point, why even have a term for it? Why even have a term for it? This is extremely exciting for anyone who wanted to get more out of their tapes. Anyway. The thing is, though, there were longer tapes. I've said multiple times but I was incorrect to say that there are actually 2 longer tapes. There are actually 2 longer types, but they're generally isolated to countries like Germany or specific professional settings. This is kind of investment since I see these are model T210. And the 10-hour tapes being both the 210s and 240s were meant to specifically be used with DVHS equipment. Both the 210s and the 240s were meant having the alternate model name. There were also some very similarly named models of tapes for other countries or made for. There were also some very super annoying when trying to find accurate super annoying. Alright, time for the mending of the video. Okay, time for the mending of video quality. Normally, so back in the 80s, like early 80s, if you recorded a tape, which recorded a little bit about how, this also reduced the, and back in the day, but I can make this tape that was, but I can make this whole tape that was recorded in SLP mode playback with quality that it is good, but I can actually make this tape that was recorded, but unfortunately I can't churn. So that solves the video part of playback. It doesn't look trash anymore, but what about the audio though? This is atrocious audio quality. So that solves this is atrocious audio quality. The audio quality is pretty awful. The audio quality is pretty awful, struggling to produce even a 90 phone, so about 8 killer. And the linear tape speed, so here's the thing, you can actually switch, so here's something goofy. You can actually switch the quality mode between SP, so the thing about the solid state sensor, so in capturing image, and in the system inside that moves the tape, no, I'm not talking about the cheaper one that I talked about before. I'm talking because I don't know because I don't know what's. Sadly, I took that unit apart and I don't feel like putting it back together, especially since I couldn't actually get to fix anything because I don't know what was actually wrong with it. Sadly, I took that other unit apart and I don't feel like putting it back together, especially since I didn't actually get to fix anything because I don't know what is wrong with it. Sorry, this video is so if you were interested in old tech nonsense like that, this has been Mr. Red from Mellocore Productions. So I gotta plug it in through turn the backpack on, turn the backpack. I'm also recording audio just in case the audio.
Especially the ones from the mid-80s to before. In fact, two of them, the exact same unit. Apparently it hit them so bad that, and the proof is in the pudding because there is a unit. That's a 1987 thinking that there. And I couldn't even put a belt back on I got this from my friend to work. I got this from my friend as a parts camera so that I could. I got this from my friend to try to fix the other camera because the camera works, but the VHS mechanism doesn't.
The CC320 did in fact come with its own power adapter, of course, and it's one of those that has, the sled for the battery, but it doesn't have a DC jack. Instead, it has another sled on the back of the charger that actually slides onto the camera's battery sled instead of the DC jack. To be honest, I'm not even sure why this has a DC jack since the charger that came with it, at least that I got with it, didn't include it. Of course, that charger doesn't work anymore. It's long dead. This is the only charger for any of these that I have working, so at least for the RCA camcorders. So I only have so much to go on.
Okay, this is just going to be a quick speaker test on. So here I am in a hotel room. This is just a test. I might put some boards over this, who knows. You probably can't even hear me over the sound of Truman brushing his teeth. This probably won't make it into the video because of Truman brushing his teeth. Goodbye. Ah, crap. This is our room. That's my stuff. That's his stuff. Right there. It's our door. Haha. That's something, I don't even know. Here. TV. And more stuff. It's very cool. Truman charging the phone. And this, I believe, was how the function